Hello there, and good morning to you. I hope you have had a great morning this far, and it will become even better now, hopefully. And we are so happy to have you with us here at Bright Vision for a webinar in the coming 45 to 60 minutes. So let's go. Short presentation. I'm Jacob Lovenbrand. I'm the managing director of Bright Vision. And I have one of my really smart colleagues with me here today who will uh, be presenting. So Jacob Hamar will take lead on that. And I'm really looking forward to hear all your content, Jacob. Jacob is the team lead for our creative team here at Bright Vision, as well as a digital strategist, and have been working with this for at least 5, 6 years here at Bright Vision. So a lot of competency and experiences. We're looking forward to hear from you. And maybe you can just give a little bit of overall. What are we going to hear from you today, Hamar?
Yes, and first, just a few words about what we do here at Bright Vision and who we are. But then we get into the content of this webinar, and the topic is content. So we'll talk about how, answer the question, a long answer to the question, is the ebook dead? And talk about the role of gated content in today's B2B tech marketing and what's the road forward, because there is a big shift that many companies need to make. And I'm here to give some insights on how that shift and advancement on that journey can look like.
Yeah, interesting. We want to hear. And before that, we'll just give you the 30-second update on who we are, who are arranging this webinar. So, Bright Vision, we are a growth agency for B2B tech companies. And growth agency, as in we grow the revenue for our clients in many different ways. And we have a full service offering as a growth agency where we do both inbound and digital marketing, the area Jacob works in, and that we will primarily be talking about today, of course. But we also do outbound, teleprospecting, inside sales teams for hire, and things like that. So no matter where our clients have a challenge in their pipeline, we can help with different tools and services. We have also quite good coverage of the Western Europe market. So we have consulting teams in like 10 countries. So if you want to do a multinational campaign with a focus on the European markets, we might be a good partner for you as well. And typical clients who work with us are tech clients in the B2B space, all from the big top American companies like Microsoft and IBM and Cisco, all the way down to local integrators and consulting companies or niche technology companies and so forth. So we can do it all, work with the big ones, the partner campaigns, and the small providers who have a small niche area they want to dominate or communicate to. So that's a little bit how we work. And we do help companies with strategic discussions, don't we, Hamar?
Yes, we do. I have those all the time. And uh, for today's webinar attendees, we are handing out 5 content marketing strategy consultations. So if you scan the QR code, you will get to a form page where you can submit the form, and the first 5 that do that will get this free consultation that we typically charge around $1,000 for. So it's quite a lot of value in this. So scan the code and submit the form. Why don't you?
And it's nice chaps you will meet.
Yes.
Great. Well, awesome. Let's get started then, and let's dive into the content for today. So take it away, Jacob.
Thank you. Yes, so we will be talking about gated content and having the ebook as kind of the prime example of how B2B tech companies work with gated content, as I assume that everyone attending this webinar is well aware of. But if we start with looking back, just 2, 3, 4 years, gated content was very different, and the way B2B tech companies worked with gated content was different. So for, let's say, 3 years ago, content downloads and white paper downloads, webinar signups, that was pretty much everything for marketing. That was what marketing did best, what they were measured on. That was what sales asked for. Marketing generated leads, or should be generating leads, and the way marketing approached that was a lot through gated content, promoting, running ads on LinkedIn, driving traffic to a landing page where they can read more about an ebook and download it, for example. As you all know. And back then, and this change has happened rapidly, but back then, prospects were willing to hand over their contact information, personal information, to pretty much anyone. New companies, old companies, regardless, it was just fun to submitting form and getting content in return. And behind all this, or the reasoning for why marketing generated these leads, was a thinking that marketing and management and sales had, and it was based on a linear model that for every 100 marketing qualified leads, we generate X number of sales qualified leads. Of those, a few becomes sales accepted leads. Then they have our sales rep have a meeting with them, and then they close deals. And it was this conversion rate between the different stages, that way of thinking, that led up to the flood of gated content. Which brings us to today, and a lot has happened in some sense, and a lot has not happened in another sense. But the big thing is that the old way of working with gated content and ebooks and white papers and downloads like that doesn't work. And we see that across the board. We work with a lot of B2B tech companies, and we see cost per content download is rapidly increasing. And benchmarks from official benchmarks from LinkedIn and Google shows this as well. So you have to pay more to generate the same amount of leads in 2023 as you would do as you generated just last year. And companies have started to realize that the customer journey, or the way companies buy, maybe isn't that linear as that nice little funnel model between MQL, SQL, all the way to close deals really showed. And companies have looked at their data and see that, the amount, like the marketing qualified leads that we generate, those really don't become customers. Customers can convert at any given stage, maybe only through the Contact Us page. So the linear model that backed up this thinking of gated content really is hard to prove today. And it's harder than ever to prove that, because the buyer's journey is much more dynamic. There's it's much harder to track every touch point and so on. So a lot of things have made that model outdated, at least. But marketing qualified leads is still, it plays such an important role in tech companies' marketing strategy and yearly marketing plans. Of course, marketing are encouraged to do other things, and marketing managers have a lot on their table, but generating leads through gated content is still a key part of the marketing function's objective, which makes the marketeers and marketing managers that have realized that the old way doesn't work feel stuck. Maybe management or sales is pushing for the old way of working. Marketers realize that doesn't really work, or we need at least increased ad budget to generate the same amount of leads as we did last year. And apart from that, many marketers feel like, okay, it's hard to to move on from here? Maybe it's hard to know where to go, but also if you know where to go, or how to move away from this lead generation focus, it's hard to actually identify the first steps and how to get the rest of the organization on board. So we are stuck in, many companies are stuck in a bit of a limbo here. So just to paint the picture a bit more clearly, there are a lot of things that pushes or makes us having to move away from the marketing is lead gen approach. And one is, of course, the saturation of gated content in general, ebook specifically, for sure. And for every, like, there's so many gated content assets going around on LinkedIn. And as we do marketing for tech companies, those IT managers that we often target have seen a lot of ebooks. And it will require quite a lot for them to convert through an asset like that. Which brings us to the second point, the quality of the content. A couple of years ago, companies were staying true to like the inbound idea that we would provide prospects with educational content that pushes them further along the buyer's journey, which is a great thinking. That's still relevant for sure. But what we've seen is that companies have they have their quota of marketing qualified leads, or leads, any contact that they can generate. Then they look at, okay, what content do we have that can generate leads? And then they find a pitch deck or a product sheet or a sales demo recorded. And then they disguise those assets, a pitch deck or a product sheet, as a white paper or ebook, or that recorded demo of a software maybe. That's being disguised as an educational webinar on demand, which, just makes people feel a bit tricked into your contact database, which is not good. Not good for your prospects, not good for your company, and not good for marketers in this space in general. Then we also have this, another aspect to this is this new way of buying behavior. A lot of, and this could be a webinar in itself, but dark social, the way prospects research and look for information is different. It takes place on areas of the internet or life that we can't really track. It's in direct messages, it's in comment sections, it's looking at comment sections. So there's a lot of things we can't track. Then we also have the whole form aversion thing. People are tired of forms. They don't want to fill out their phone number to get an infographic. Maybe due to their integrity, that they don't want to give away contact information. Maybe they have had bad experience before because they got called up by a sales rep the minute after they downloaded a white paper, which is not good follow-up. So people stay away from form, just generally. Then we're also on the point of us not being able to track everything in this fine marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads model, the cookieless web that we're moving into, where Safari and Google has started to remove cookies. So there are those are a few reasons, but also people don't read ebooks. We can wish that they digested every single word that we wrote in that fancy ebook, but and this is of course a truth with modification, but this LinkedIn survey shows a bit that 65% don't read ebooks. And I'm not saying that ebooks is the wrong thing to do for every B2B tech company, but we can't set a yearly marketing plan and marketing strategy that's based on a content format that's designed for generating marketing qualified leads. We can't base our go-to-market strategy on that. So there is a road forward. There is a journey that companies have to start, and I would be happy to say that it's as easy as just ungating every gated content asset that you have, and that will solve everything. It's not that easy, unfortunately. So the road forward, first and foremost, there needs to be a shift in strategy and a shift in thinking about gated content and ebooks. It can play a part, but it needs to be like gated content and what else. We can't set a yearly marketing plan that just consists of like 3 ebooks every quarter, and that will fill our revenue quota or marketing contributed pipeline quota. That's not the way people or companies buy today. So gated content, yes, it can definitely play a part in your yearly marketing plan or marketing strategy. But there's 2 things to this. So one, it needs to be gated content and what else, and other content. And the gated content that you run ads for example, needs to be done in the right way, like a good follow-up, a good a relevant topic, not a disguised product sheet, so to speak. So that's the road forward that companies need to make and move away from lead gen as the number 1 job for marketing. But I will now go into a bit like, okay, where do we go away from lead gen? I hope I made that point clear. Marketing should not be a lead gen function by itself. But where should we move to? So yeah, making marketing great again. That's what we want to do. So we want a marketing function that's considered, and their job is not exclusively 100% generating leads through gated content. Gated content can play a part, but it's a thought out. Gated content has a thought out role in the marketing strategy. And the marketing function that we want to move to, so to speak, is a marketing department whose objective is to generate business, not downloads. And in an ideal world, everyone in the company would understand that downloads does not equal business opportunities. And to relate it into KPIs, this is a bit drastic, but we will look at customer acquisition cost. Like that is decreasing that metric, how much we pay to get a new client in. That's marketing's job, to get that down to the smallest figure possible. The job is not to bring the cost per lead down by itself. We don't have to forget cost per lead 100%, but it's the customer acquisition cost that we should focus on. And in the ideal world, of course, the entire organization buys this and sees this and stops demanding marketing qualified leads and new contacts from marketing. But this is an ideal world. So getting closer to an ideal world is hard, but the first, and I know that people attending this webinar or watching this recording, you might be in a lot of different stages of this journey. Some might have understood that, okay, gated content does not work. Some have maybe realizes that this year, but I'm walking through this this journey and how to start with it by taking baby steps. And like it's a journey. It's not a drastic change from fiscal year 2023 to 2024, where we change a lot of things at the same time. It's gradually implementing this new way of doing content marketing, where gated content is part of it, but not everything. So we need to take baby steps in multiple areas, and I would recommend to start with these three that comes now. So first is market segmentation. We need to work smarter when it comes to segmenting our total addressable market, and I will come to how and why in a minute. We also need to rethink our approach to content strategy and content production and content marketing in general, where we put more focus on quality rather than quantity. More on that in a minute as well. And lastly, since we will be gradually going towards a bit of new way of working with content, that for marketing to prove its value and or give something tangible to the ones setting the budget or have a say in the marketing strategy, we need a new way of reporting and attributing revenue or closed deals to marketing. So in these three areas is where we will start. So if we go into segmenting your total addressable market, why we do that is to be more relevant and more cost efficient. That's the short story. But and I will tie that into how the new way of working with content strategy ties into segmenting the target audience. But what we want to do is to develop very clear ideal customer profiles and dare to be specific. And we need to understand what the ideal client is. We can't say that our product is great for everyone, so let's run a LinkedIn ad to everyone. That won't bring you in business. So develop a few clear ideal customer profiles. And depending on where you are in your growth journey, startups, generally speaking, recommend to have one ideal customer profile, because you need to really go focus your efforts 100% as a smaller company where with maybe less resources. So focus on one if you're a smaller company. If you're a more established company with maybe bigger markets, more countries, bigger product or service portfolio, you can of course have multiple ideal customer profiles. And notice that I don't talk about buyer personas, because marketing people tend to be quite good at developing buyer personas. So it's more of creating these market segments of your total addressable market based on ideal customer profile and adding buyer personas on there. Maybe doing a fintech version of the IT manager buyer persona, but we need to have that ideal customer profile filter on the buyer personas. But buyer personas most companies have already. But we should treat these ideal customer profiles as companies that fit a certain ideal customer profile should be treated as an individual market. So we create one marketing strategy and plan for one ideal customer profile. That's how you stay relevant. That's how you are relevant in your messaging and cost effective with what we carry out to the market. And just if you're having a hard time starting with these ideal customer profiles, I just want to give some inspiration on how you can approach segmenting your market, generally speaking. And there are a few different ways. There are more than these four, but these four are common. So firmographics is good as marketers. We can build target audiences based on firmographics quite easily, which we like, but it may not be the most relevant for a business when we talk about ideal customer profile, but it could be. But that's one way to do it. Tiering, that's more of a forward-thinking approach of segmenting the total addressable market, where you segment based on how does this company fit into our entire service or product portfolio. Like we see how much revenue we could get from this segment, how many products they could buy, for example, and calculate based on that. But that's one way of segmenting. Another is, of course, on needs. What they need. And one is customer sophistication. So in marketing terms, how far along the buyer's journey they are. So you could focus your marketing efforts on this segment of companies that is very sophisticated, has a lot of awareness of the type of solution you provide, so to speak. So that's a few ways to approach segmenting. But say in regards to gated content, because that's what this webinar is about, when we develop these clear ideal customer profiles, what we need to put a lot of emphasis on is understanding how this ICP research and gather information around possible solutions, vendors, or researching a problem that they might face. Because that will vary, especially if we go with firmographics and maybe industry-specific ICPs. Then I'm sure there are industry-specific research channels, for example. So focus on or add that perspective to your ideal customer profile for us marketeers to be able to work with it in a marketing sense. So once we have, let's say that you are a company that have this one clear ideal customer profile, and you treat it as its own market, where you need to develop content in all the stages of the customer journey towards this towards companies that fit the ICP. Then you get into content strategy, content marketing. And the way a lot of tech companies work today is focusing on creating assets, if that makes sense. Like they focus on, we need 2 ebooks to meet our marketing qualified quota. That's where the thinking starts, in that end. But we need to shift that a bit. So we need to not consider creating the content asset as much as we should focus on creating ideas or generating ideas and having a plan for distributing the content. Those two will be, I can't understate how important that shift is, going from just creating content to coming up with ideas. And more on that now. So what do I mean with ideation? I mean, you should look at a specific ICP and maybe even a buyer persona within that ICP to and then you should come up with one great idea. Easier said than done, of course, but my team are experts on it. But nail down like a key message that you want to get across, and maybe the risks of going with solving this problem with spreadsheets instead of a software, for example. That's not a great idea, but develop a message like that, and then for the ICP and buyer persona, and then you, since you've done research on the ideal customer profiles research channels, then you can see, okay, where should this great key message idea be communicated? Okay, maybe our buyer persona is a lot on LinkedIn and Google. Okay, then we should look at LinkedIn as a channel and creating content from that great idea in a format that fits the distribution channel. Like take that core message create one thought leadership post that an employee can produce, one LinkedIn collaboration article on that topic, one company page post on that topic. So what I mean is not to just create a post that leads to a landing page where they can download an ebook about this. No, create content in the channel with the same idea, core message as the ebook, but showcase it on LinkedIn to the ICP in the format that fits the channel. And that way of thinking about core message and distribution channels, then you can focus on creating one idea, and just by looking at the distribution channels and the content formats, you can produce 10, 20 assets based on one idea. But then we are coherent and consistent about our core message to the target audience, which is based on our ideal customer profile. And that way of thinking is necessary, especially, just a little side note, especially in the age of AI, where we more than ever can get support from tools to create the content. And everybody has access to ChatGPT. Yes, then of course we should focus on not using ChatGPT in the best way, but coming up with the best core message that is really relevant for our target audience. And then we can utilize various tools for producing or adapting that message to different channels. Yes, and the last thing, or third area where we need to take baby steps, and this is in regards to reporting. So a bit more statistical, factual data in your CRM. That's what we're talking about here. So with a content strategy that's based on core messages towards a clear buyer persona at a ideal customer profile, we need to measure it a bit differently, because gated content might be part of that, but there will be 19 of 20 other assets that's ungated. So how do we work with reporting and updating our way of working with data based on this? So first, we should start looking beyond cost per lead or a number of MQLs, however you want to put that. But we need to look at metrics, for example, engagement, and because that's really what we want. We want people to read our ebook, so to speak. So how do we do this? We need to measure engagement and create content and assets that's measured on that metric, engagement. And measuring engagement can be done in a lot of different ways. On a website, it would be maybe time on page or average page visits if they started at a blog post page, for example. On LinkedIn, we have set engagement metrics. So, but consider, like, they need to engage with the content. That thought leadership post from an employee, for example, that the job of that post is not to generate leads. So CPL would be a very weird KPI to have on a content asset like that. But engagement is very sensible to have as main KPI. Another thing that's in another area of reporting and data is self-reporting. And what I mean with self-reporting as a value, if we talk about data, is asking our prospects and clients and the people we engage with how they, like, asking them directly, so they are self-reporting. That's why it's called self-reporting. And that can be done in a lot of different ways. I'm sure that you've submitted a form once in your life where a little drop-down menu asks, how did you hear about us? For example, that's a self-reporting. Self-reporting is also asking, maybe you close a deal with a new client. Great. In the first meeting with that new customer, ask, hey, have you checked out our blog? Did you know that we have a blog? Okay, that's self-reporting of awareness of your blog. So asking, and of course also documenting the answers, so we have that. But getting the answers directly from the people and prospects we speak to will be key. Again, tying into the cookieless web and the dark social and the things we can't really track today as we could 3 years ago. So we need to go back to basics and just ask our prospects and customers. And experiment with attribution model. This is a bit more complex and maybe not the first baby step to take, but there are a lot of, we could have a webinar on attribution models as well, but attribution models is just ways to measure the impact and success of marketing. And I believe that attribution models should be regarded as a toolbox. Every attribution model is a tool within that toolbox, and you utilize it for different purposes. So to make it clear, one way, one attribution model example is to see, we zero in on the data between like all the touch points a lead or contact has with our company between first sales meeting and closed deal. That's where we can look, okay, how big of a role does marketing play? Because those are the touch points we want to look at. How important is marketing within a sales process? And maybe we see that, for every contact we investigate with this model, we see that every single one looked at our case studies. Then we can see that, okay, case studies obviously plays an important part in this stage of the sales cycle. And there are a lot of different attribution models. I just encourage to contact me to talk about it or research it online. But there's so much you can do with that. And these are, like, what you see on the slide now is basically what you need to be able to capture the impact of ungated content. That's the short story. And there are more ways to advance on the reporting part, but these are baby steps. Yes, that was my monologue. Thank you so much for listening to what my opinion on this. And just to summarize, the title of the webinar is the ebook dead, right? The answer is no, the ebook is not dead, but the way many companies work with ebooks today is, and hopefully soon, very dead. That was my notes. And again, I'm promoting the offering here, so take the opportunity and maybe you'll get a consultation with one of Bright Vision's content strategy experts.
Thank you, Jacob, and thank you everybody for listening in. And we will have a few minutes now for answering questions. So please write your questions if you've not done it before in the chat here. So awesome, Jacob, and very interesting to hear your thoughts about this and the insights you have both from your own experience as well as the survey. So we start with a question here from Peter Andersson. How to decide between gated and non-gated content, key factors, and so forth, how this affects the overall marketing strategy. Any short comment on that?
Sorry, my sound broke off.
Okay, how to decide between gated and non-gated content, and what are the key factors in making that decision?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it has no easy answer. But I think, generally speaking, companies should gate less. I heard one industry colleague saying that you should never gate something that you wouldn't, like a prospect wouldn't be ready to pay for, and that's what you should gate for free. I think you don't have to be as drastic as that, but that thinking that it has to be of great value if you want to gate something. Otherwise, and consider like is the important thing here that a person reads your ebook or that they submit a form. Like, what is the most important part? Oftentimes it's reading the ebook, and then it can be ungated.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We have another question here from Lorenzo Stranges. How can you show us some reporting on attribution models?
I can't show you right here, right now, but send me an email and we'll set up a call and we'll go through attribution models.
Yeah. Lorenzo, please reach out to Jacob. You have his email there in the presentation. So please reach out and we can discuss it over coffee, at least you and Jacob. Moving on here, we have a question from Karen. From your experience, how has the consumer's attitude towards gated content evolved in the past years? You touched upon a little bit that, but maybe...
people stay away from forms, but that's a general trend. We've also seen that now more than ever, like very the more personal information you ask for, the less likely is it that someone submits your form. So a constant topic for discussion with our clients is how important is it to have the phone number on this ebook form, because it's not good follow-up to call them. So maybe if we want to call them, maybe we can find the phone number in another way. So we need to find other ways to complement the information we get from prospects when they submit the form.
Okay. We have a question here from Elin Varfinge. How do you define what is an ebook and what is a white paper? Do you think people would have answered in the same way if the question was, how often do you download and actually read a white paper instead of using the word ebook? What's your experience on this?
I would say that generally it's impossible to distinguish from a white paper and an ebook, based on what you see in the space today. But the white paper is a more academic term, and I've seen like actual white papers, and then it's oftentimes like an experiment study or like a more scientific approach to a subject. That's an actual white paper, but today people use them interchangeably. But I think less people would say that they actually read white papers because they tend to be a bit more scientific and long.
Yeah. Aileen Becker wonders if you could share a bit more information on the poll you shared the result from, like how many people answered, when did you do the poll, and so forth.
Yes, this it was around 300 replying, and it was done a few months ago, September, so it was relatively recent.
Okay, great. And just a quick question here. You're referring to firmographics, and what is that?
Yes, and thank you for checking my use of these marketing terms. But firmographics is basically the hard facts about a company. You could say example of firmographics are number of employees, number of offices, revenue, where their HQ is located, when were they founded, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And while talking about ICP and market segmentation and firmographics, Jörn Olsen have a question here, or both a comment and a question. He says that on a general level, it has been well documented by Ehrenberg Bass Institute that not to segment your audience is the best way for growth. Broad reach instead of a narrow definition of ICPs to prioritize the buyers. The brand hasn't reached before. Ebooks, I guess, are targeting a narrow segment. Any thoughts?
Yes. First thought is that I think you could find someone saying that you should definitely segment for growth. So I think it's more of an opinion that I value. Like that's definitely a reasonable way of thinking. But what, and I like I have the marketing hat on. That's my perspective. So I'm thinking that broad reach, like when you set up the LinkedIn advertising campaign, you should want to narrow just for cost efficiencies, and also I think maybe like if you see that ICPs is the wrong way to grow, you're entitled to believe that. But if we add the content creation part, like you need to distinguish your when you develop the content and what you want to communicate to be relevant. Especially if you want to work with gated content, as this webinar is about, then you need to be very relevant. And you can, and with that in mind, I can't recommend having a broad approach. Maybe a broad approach with multiple ICPs, but developing content and marketing for each individual.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm sure there are companies who have succeeded not segmenting their market, but generally it's easy to end up in the plain vanilla trap where you sell something that is very generic, very general, very not interesting, to be honest, for anybody. And that is the backside of not segmenting. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Jacob, that every strategy has its pros and cons, of course, but we believe firmly in segmentation as an efficient way to create results. And then we have a very interesting content strategic question here. What type of content would you say is worth having gated? And it's Petter Andersson who wonders that.
I think we answered that a bit, but it goes back to if it's important to have people read it or engage with it, or generating the contact, just like knowing who downloaded it. But that might be more of a reflection who are willing in today's day and age to give away their contact information to an unknown company. Like it's not a super strong buying signal today to download something regardless. So I think look at if the goal is for people to engage with your content, ungate it. I just a quick side note. I spoke to a company the other day that wanted that they paid quite a big amount of money for a industry report where they were considered a leader, and they wanted to gate that. And I asked, like, okay, you spend all this money getting your name in this report. Isn't it more important to show that? And they actually realized then that yes, to make the most out of this investment in the content asset, of course we want people to read it. So that's one real life example.
Wonderful. And I think that will be our final comment in this webinar, since we're out of time. And if you have more questions, please email Jacob or reach out to us at Bright Vision, and we will continue the dialogue there. And we will also would like to do a little push for our next event, who will be B2B FinTech Marketing Day on December 5th. Full afternoon with 5-6 lined up speakers, really interesting. So if you're into B2B FinTech, that is the event to join. And if you're into B2B marketing overall, that might be very interesting for you as well, since we will be talking about marketing tactics for niche segments as well, talking about segmentation here. So with that, thank you so much, Jacob, for sharing all your insights and your content here today, and to everybody listening in. Great to have you with us, and hope we'll see you on our next event or webinar. Have a great day now.